two directions. We should either disarm everybody, starting with the most massive military establishment ever established on Earth, and that's the U.S. military. We can disarm them, disarm the police, disarm everybody, or we should go the other direction and arm the homeless, which is, I think, would be a great thing. I think there are a lot of good people among the homeless. Why not have them all get a little stipend?
I think there's a lot. I think you find mainly, and I'm sad for homeless, I try to help them, but most of them are schizophrenic drug addicts.
Well, good Lord. Then why aren't they getting help?
I bet you $10,000 you can come to Austin with me, and if 90% of the homeless aren't mentally ill people dumped out of facilities, who I feel sorry for, or aren't total drug addicts, I'll give you 10 grand. I mean, everybody knows they're mainly mentally ill.
Would we count on you to be the diagnostician? I'd be a little suspicious just from the last...
No, we can bring like 3 random people, whether it's just, if the person's muttering to themselves and talking to themselves, obviously they're completely out of their minds. You know most of the homeless people.
Listen, you've been muttering to yourself for the last 45 minutes. But
good one.
But listen, Alex.
Should I be locked up like the Soviets would do? Because am I mentally ill?
If they are mentally ill on the streets of Austin, shouldn't they get some help from the community? Shouldn't we allow them to get treatment?
Absolutely, I'm all for that, but you notice the welfare system always gets sucked up by the corporations. I want to go to some phone calls while we've got you here. We don't have you very long, maybe 5-6 more minutes. We appreciate Bill Ayers joining us. I got to say, I agree with more of what Bill Ayers says than what Obama says, which is frightening. Bill Ayers says, arm the women.
Absolutely.
Arm them, yeah.
Arm the homeless. Don't forget, arm the homeless.
Then they won't need arm everybody.
That's right.
I say arm the police, and just everybody can have weapons. And if they have tanks, I have tanks.
Buddy.
I got to have my guns for when the commies come. Let's talk to Gary. Gary in Pennsylvania, you're up first. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Bill. I just wanted to ask you just a quick question, maybe get a few bullet points on what your definition, in your own words and opinion, of the difference between socialism and communism, just of what you believe in.
Well, I don't think, for me, if you read, for example, the Communist Manifesto, there's a lot in there that you would find you agree with. The Communist Manifesto is not a plan for state communism. It's not a plan to overthrow the government. It's not a playbook for communist revolution. What it is mainly a praise song for capitalism. It basically says, in the historical sweep of nations, the rise of capitalism is the most productive force that's ever been made, and it's going to exhaust itself. I think that the communism of the 20th century was catastrophic for humanity. I think the socialism of the 20th century and 21st century in Europe is inadequate and in many ways feeds the corporate culture. I think we need participatory democracy, and that includes participatory economic democracy. That is, we as a community...
Socialism is a stagnant, rotten cesspit that lets special interests control big pools of money. That's why big money always is backing limited socialism. And I'm glad you just basically admitted that it's all nothing but a corporate welfare system that then controls the population. Gary, thank you.
In Europe, yes, Alex, that's what I said.
Yeah,
and
no, it's
that before. I don't think you should be surprised. If you've ever read anything I've written, I write about these kinds of things all the time.
Well, folks can read your website. Let's rush to some more calls here. Let's go ahead and go to Ray in Iowa. Go ahead. You're on the air with the Grand Weatherman. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Alex, thank you, sir, for taking my call.
Yeah, go ahead. You're on the air with the Grand Poobah.
Well, I had a question for Mr. Bill Ayers. I wanted to find out if he had ever seen a film by Joel Gilbert called Dreams of My Real Father, and if so, what was his take on that film, and how did he feel about it?
I've not seen it, and I've never heard of it.
Frank Marshall Davis, did you know him?
I never knew Frank Marshall Davis. I read about him in the New York Times.
But so Barack never told you that was his pappy?
I knew Barack Obama about as well as thousands and thousands of other people. It's not that we weren't intimate friends. We never shared a milkshake with 2 straws. Never.
All right. Well, nobody ever said you did that. You'd have to be cuddling to be doing that.
Close friends. I was not.
You never dated Barack Obama?
I never dated him, right.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go to Jeff in Tennessee. You're on the air with Bill Ayers. Go ahead. We got 2 more calls, and we'll let his lordship go. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, guys. Good to talk to you, Mr. Ayers. Just a question as far as listening to you talk on the radio. I mean, there's things that we definitely have in common. but there's a lot of things we don't have in common, and I think would help me understand if, just hypothetically, Rand Paul and Hillary Clinton are running for office, which one would you vote for, and what would be your reasonings behind standing behind one or the other?
I wouldn't vote for either one of them, and I'm not a big fan of the Republicans and the Democrats. In fact, I don't think, if you look at history, I don't think that the great man or the great woman is what changes history. If you look at Lyndon Johnson, he was never part of the Black Freedom Movement, but he passed the most far-reaching civil rights legislation since Reconstruction. Franklin Roosevelt was never part of the labor movement, and Abraham Lincoln never belonged to an abolitionist party. What changes history is movements on the ground. I'm more interested in people being active in trying to engage with each other to change the terms of the discussion.
The people are the resistance. We agree on that.
Then who's president? Who's president? You notice, if you go back even in this century, Democrat, Republican, they're pretty much the same. They're not completely the same, but they're pretty much the same.
Well, who would you share a milkshake with, Hillary Clinton or Rand Paul?
You know, I find Hillary Clinton, I could never vote for Hillary Clinton. She's in the pocket of Wall Street. She's a militaristic candidate. And those are the two things that matter most to me. Rand Paul, I agree with him more around the question of militarism, but he also is a Wall Street favorite. So, neither one of them really. I'd like to share a milkshake with you in Austin.
All right. If you come down here, we will share a milkshake. Okay. With a strawberry milkshake together. Let's go ahead and take two more calls and we'll let you go. I appreciate your time. This is a ridiculous debate, folks. But we'll get him in person down here. We'll waterboard him. That's what patriots do. We'll get the answers. I'm joking.
Just waterboard people? What?
It's a joke. I don't support waterboarding. Even though Dick Cheney's... I'm a big fan of Dick Cheney, though.
I'm so shocked.
I'm joking. All right, let's go ahead and talk to... Let's go ahead and talk to Patrick and then Kevin, and then that's it. I'll have to get to Clint and others because we got to go here. Our guest has got to go. We're holding him over. Patrick, you're on the air with Bill Ayers.
Yes, hello. Mr. Ayers,
yes.
Just curious, there's a lot of this discussion going back and forth, and it's just I constantly hear the same thing coming out of your mouth is, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not familiar. I don't know. I guess my question is, what is it that you do know? And obviously it should be education. But I question that because you look at the current state of our educational system, it's absolutely just blasphemously ignorant and disgusting. Is that something that you advocate as being appropriate, or do you find there's a better model than what this public system is doing to demolish the brains of these young children?
Well, I very much have been a person who's opposed the status quo in education, where I think we could start in a lot of different places we could start. But one of the things is public education very much serves the people who are privileged. So you go to a city like Winnetka, north of Chicago, those kids get a great education. Go to Chicago, those kids get a rotten education. Why? Because the education for the people who are pulling the strings is an education for initiative, courage, imagination, and entrepreneurship. The education the kids in Chicago get is about obedience and conformity.
Well, that's true, but shouldn't people in Chicago themselves change that? To say some small, wealthy town shouldn't use its own money for its kids is just fundamentally theft.
Alex, you asked the question, and the answer I'll give you is yes. Shouldn't the people in Chicago change it? Yes.
There you go. So, I mean, I want people to do good. And, I mean, certainly there's inequity, but there'll always be, and any attempt to change it by just taking money creates a new evil. Patrick?
You know, again, I never said anything about taking money. Here's what I would say. In a democracy, whatever the most privileged and wisest parents have for their children should be the baseline of what we want for all children.
But we're not a democracy. We're a republic. We can't have two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner.
Well, the fact is that we want all kids, I want all kids to get a decent education, and a decent education is not an education for obedience and conformity.
Do you like Common Core?
No, I do not like Common Core, and the hugest thing that's hideous about Common Core is it goes along with the corporate reform agenda of reducing education to a simple-minded score on a standardized test.
Well, I agree with you because...
More testing, that is an anathema to education.
Well, yeah, the left defends it all day, but you're actually right. Bill and Melinda Gates came up with it as a brainwashing system. It is a corporatist thing, and the right wing can't square that their precious corporations want a bunch of dumb zombies.
Wait a minute. When you say the left supports it, who are you talking about? I think you've got some magical mindset somewhere. Am I the left? I don't support it. So who's the left that you're referring to that loves Common Core?
The mainline Democrats that can't tie their shoelaces and think that Martin Luther King is an astronaut.
But I just said to you, I thought that leading Democrats are idiots, and they're like leading Republicans. In fact, we have one political party in this country in charge. It's called the Repulsocrats.
The Repulsocrats. All right. Well, I do appreciate you joining us.
I'm late, but thank you for talking to me, and I hope to talk to you in Austin someday.
If you come down to Austin, we'll host you in studio. Okay, and even though it's evil and capitalist, we'd pay for your hotel room and the strawberry milkshakes.
I don't think there's anything wrong with paying for the hotel room. We'll talk again.
We'll put some vodka in the milkshake.
I have no idea.
We'll get you drunk. The truth serum. What is that in Latin? That wine makes you tell the truth?
I have no idea.
You want to have a drinking contest and sell tickets?
No, I don't drink. But thanks anyway.
Me neither. Vino Veritas. Have a good one.
You too.
Oh my goodness. Oh boy. Well, that's the hardcore commie trying to charm us, and oh, I don't know this, oh, I don't know that.